everyone, I'm Kimberly and welcome back to my channel. It's Only Homeschooling. If you've never been here before, I'm a licensed professional counselor turned homeschool mom of one. I'm also an advocate for helping you homeschool your child with learning differences. And today I'm going to talk with you a little bit about how I go about planning my homeschool year as a hybrid homeschooler. First of all, if you're not familiar with hybrid homeschooling or if you'd like to know more about it, I'll put a card up here for some previous videos I have made introducing you to hybrid homeschooling and also letting you know what the pros and the cons are and our experience has been like thus far as hybrid homeschoolers. As a hybrid homeschool family, my son attends a university model program where he attends classes on campus in a brick and mortar building 2 days a week, and then the rest of the time during the week he does his lessons at home with me as his teacher. In the fall, when he returns back to the university model school, he will be a fifth grader. It will be our 5th year as a homeschool family, but our 2nd year as a hybrid homeschool family. In the earlier years as homeschoolers, my planning process looked a little bit different. I was responsible for picking out all of the curriculum, choosing the dates, so to speak, so that we were going to have school, booking around or on vacations. There was a lot more freedom. Now, with the University Model School program, since it's a partnership, they pick out our curriculum and they set the schedule. We do have some flexibility as to when we can take our vacations if we want to take different times off, as long as we complete our curriculum and get our work done. But this year's planning is going to look a little different. I'll show you some examples of the planners that I still have from our early years as homeschoolers before it switched to the hybrid homeschool model, so that you can kind of see a difference in how the planning process went. Okay, so my very first year as a homeschool mom, I love these beautiful planners by Legend Planners, and I would use it kind of bullet journal style. The very first year I tend to kind of overdo when I get a little nervous about something, and I was pretty anxious my first year as a homeschooler. If you know anything about me or if you've read any of my blog posts, basically the story goes, my son attended a private pre-K and a private kinder, and I had initially enrolled him in public school and then sort of panicked and changed my mind at the last minute and did not have him attend public school. I had 1 month to pick out all of my curriculum and plan everything, and I did it in sort of a mad dash. And so I planned everything down to the T. I wanted to make sure that I got everything done. I was still in that mindset of, oh goodness, I must get everything done. I must finish the book. I've learned a lot since then, and I've grown a lot since then. But my first year of homeschooling, I planned everything to death. I've learned to relax quite a bit. Here is an example of what my first year homeschool planning looked like. Okay, this is kind of funny. It's one of those moments that when you know better, you kind of do better. But if you can tell, I took this bullet journal idea pretty serious. I got out all of my colored pencils and my colored pens, and I wanted to make sure that I had everything covered right down to the letter, including codes and all of these different little symbols that you use in your bullet journals. And basically what I was going by at the time was recommendations from The Well-Trained Mind by Susan Wise Bauer. Here is a little bit of the book that I had at the time. It's an older version of the book. It's not the latest version, but if you can see, I've made notes for myself and I've marked everything in this book. Oh my goodness, bless my heart is all I can say. But I meant well. I've learned and grown a lot since then, but it was even down to the letter of how often this class should be, when I need to do this, all the things, right? All the things. I even had an index, guys. And I just thought I had to document everything. I can't completely blame Susan Weisbauer for that. I'm going to just say that that's left over from being a therapist and a counselor because, oh my, if it isn't written down, it didn't happen. And that's just so left over. Part of that's my type A personality. Part of that is where they sort of scare you to death in graduate school, where you just have to make sure that you document everything. So this is my crazy planner of what it looked like as my first year as a homeschool mom. Trying to schedule everything out. Oh, look. Oh my, I was so cute. Look at that. I wrote everything that we had read, and I even categorized it. I'm surprised all the books in my home library aren't straight out of the Dewey Decimal System. Okay, here, even though this is a planner that comes with a calendar, I was super cute back then, and I decided that I was going to do extra work. Do not ask me why. I've recovered. I'm in recovery. Always learning, always growing. But here's just an example of what this looked like. I put resources in here. I even drew out my own calendar. I wrote down options of where I could take additional classes. All the things, right? All the things. I put when we had camp in here, places where we could, different classes we can take. And all of this stuff is still useful. But one thing that I did was I took back from that key that I had made and I wrote out when we should get all of our lessons in and what days of the week that we were going to do. And guys, I did this, oh my goodness, for the entire year and stressed myself out. Okay, so that was year one. That is going to be an example of what you do not need to do. And I emphasize that enough. Let's see if I get better by second grade. And that was first grade. COVID hit. Boy, did that change a lot of things. You can see I still like this form of planner. I love Legend planners the best. And you're going to see a stack of these because I use a new one for every year. But instead of starting them in January, I start them in the summer because that is kind of when the academic year begins for us. But you can see here I would do it by the month. And then I would start with by the day. Here's still in summer. My son had Lift camp that month. Lift is a Learning is Fun Together, a micro school that offered some support for us here. But he had a lot of camps. I have some vacation marked in there. But you can see this year there's a huge difference between my planner of the first grade to second grade. I've got my own doctor's appointments in there. I've got the health scheduled out, but you can also see I've marked a lot of things out. I'm starting to realize nobody sticks to a schedule that is that rigid. So I call this early stages of my recovery. Third grade looks pretty similar. Purple, my favorite color. And we're getting better. Look, guys, look at the huge difference between my first year of insanity, where I'm so gung-ho with everything color-coded right down to the subject with abbreviations and whether or not I finished it, to, yeah, we might get to that today. Saxon 4 maybe, Byzantine Empire maybe. Oh, here's what I might like to do today. I'm getting better. I'm slowly getting more comfortable. I would sort of just give myself a few notes as to make sure that I was on track. But it was looking so much better. And then now we're on to this year. So even though I look back on that now and laugh uproariously at my overconfidence over what I thought I could get done, or even more than that, what I thought I should get done, I've grown a lot. This year, this is my planner that I had left over from third grade, and third grade was very different. I had launched my website. My son started, I started my blog. I started a podcast. I did many, many things for my son's third grade year. It's also the year we started our first year as hybrid homeschoolers. So I'm going to show you now how I planned this past year because it was vastly different from how I planned in previous years. The planners that I have come to really love are these Legend planners. In the past, I've gotten the bigger version, but this is kind of bulky and I don't want to take it around with me. So I switched over the past year to the smaller version. It's kind of like a 5x7 picture frame size. And so this is the planner that I used for third grade, and this is the one that I am getting ready to fill out and start using for this year in fifth grade. I know some people prefer to do things digitally. I still just like the feel of a pen and paper in my hand. I'm also the type that I simply prefer. I do have a digital book reader and I do read books digitally, but I do simply prefer the feeling of a book in my hand. I like the feeling of the turning of the pages, and I like to use brightly colored ink. So I used less of it this year though. I typically start my planners from July to July. So instead of January to January, I do July to July. This planner, I like it because it has the full month, but then it also has by the week. I use both. So this time the year started, this planner started for last year at the last week of June. So when it finishes, it will be, it's almost time for me to completely start that new one. Oh yeah, the last week is going to be the week of July 16th. So that is when I have picked up here. I usually do about 1 week of overlap just to be sure that I'm not missing any time. I start out with the dates that what you'll see written in my planner is all kinds of things like upcoming videos that I've made for my channel and upcoming interviews that I may have. Since I have several different podcasts going on, I always try to schedule those out a couple of weeks in advance. So this is more than just for my homeschool days or for my lesson plannings. I keep my work stuff in here too. I had already taken, these come blank, and you can prefer to buy some with the dates that are already in, but since I do my planners from July to July, I prefer to mark in the dates myself. So I've already marked, like this is the week of Thanksgiving holidays. Just write for myself that this is break. See, not even, it's not even fancy, not even color-coded, completely sloppy. I just don't care. I'm so reformed based on where I was in previous years. I'm gonna call it growth. Always learning, always growing, right? So after I put in the school dates, the dates that he's going to be on campus or the holidays that they've got scheduled out, the next thing I like to do is I like to put in my planner the extracurriculars. My son participates in a lot of different extracurricular activities, such as here in the DFW area, we have Botanic Gardens and we have the Fort Worth Zoo, and they have all different kinds of homeschool programs. It is almost an embarrassment of riches with the amount of homeschool programs that are available in my area, which I'm very thankful for. We try to let him participate and do as many of those things as possible. They also fill up pretty quickly because there's been an explosion of homeschoolers, not just here, but across the nation, especially since the pandemic. So we try to make sure that we register for him for those, and I mark those down in my calendar to make sure that we are on time for those. He also participates in a couple of sports, things like homeschool archery, and some swim is his favorite sport, and that is usually on the same time every week. Archery for sure, art and music as well. He's in a homeschool PE class. That's at the same time every week, so I make sure to mark that down so that I know where I need to be and when. Swim is the only thing that varies, simply because as he completes a skill level and moves up another class, that time may vary. But because that can change, I also like to make sure to mark it in my calendar so I know where I need to be and when. The other thing that I like to mark in my calendar is we attend occupational and physical therapy, so I want to make sure to put those appointments down. Usually we're at the same time every week, but it's another place that I have to be. So I like having this planner with me because it helps me book all of my personal appointments, my professional appointments, doctor's appointments, when I've got interviews scheduled for people for one of my podcasts, or if I've got deadlines for an article, it all goes in here. So this is both my professional, my homeschool, and my personal planner all in one. Post first grade, when I was planning out my lesson plans for the year and when I would purchase curriculum, I stuck with pretty much the same thing. I did not plan as rigid where I must get this lesson exactly done on this day. I just had kind of a general framework. There's this number of lessons in the book. If I want to homeschool for 4 days that week, then I need to get this many number of lessons done in a week. By second grade, I started to realize, it started to really hit home with me, okay, I don't have to finish every lesson in the book. And that more homeschool moms, the pandemic had hit, and it really kind of helped me shift my thinking quite a bit with what's really important. And it's not finishing that curriculum. It is not finishing that book. It is about connection with my child. That is what's most important, far more important than anything else. Now, as a hybrid homeschool family, I don't pick the curriculum, the school picks the curriculum. So they set the pace as far as what assignments are going to be completed when. They start with assignments are begun on campus, and then we get a schedule. We communicate back and forth via email and via parent portal, where I know what assignments are going to be completed on a daily basis, assignments that he's there. If something doesn't get finished in class, his teacher communicates back to me, and we work on it at home to make sure there are no gaps in his learning. There's also homework assignments and projects, and there's a really, really strong source of communication between the school and the parent, because it is a true partnership. So with the planning, there is a little bit of a trade-off in that. You do trade off some of your freedom, but for me, it's worth the trade-off for me, simply because it also removes a lot of the burden of having to pick that right curriculum. And so far it's worked. We've just had 1 year with it. We'll see how this next year goes. They're keeping a lot of the same curriculum providers, such as they're big BJU Press homeschool fans, and so are we, and that curriculum has worked very well for us, so we are excited to continue with that. Every year is a different year, and every year we reevaluate. So that is it for my homeschool planning, pretty much my evolution of homeschool planning, I guess you could say. I started out being very detailed and very gung-ho and very unrealistic, but I have grown over the years. Even after my first year, I have learned that you don't have to finish the book. You can't plan everything out completely, and you need to put in breaks for rest. So if you can see the way my planners evolved from very detailed to, okay, we'll get to it when we get to it, not totally lags. We're still keeping up with our assignments. We are still thriving, but even now, how we've had to do a little bit even more of a shift with going into hybrid homeschooling, as someone else is setting our schedule and someone else is picking our curriculum. We're still finding our rhythm. I think that's just how things go, though, whether it's homeschool, whether it's parenting, whether it's growing up in general. You kind of have to lean into the curves and ebb with the flow and bend into the wind, so that you can learn how to be flexible with no matter what comes your way. That is my progress with it. I hope this video has been useful for you, to show you the not so fancy ways that I plan for my homeschool year. Who knows what I'll do differently next year. But I will put a link to the materials that I've used before, pretty much the planners and some things that I use off of Amazon when I'm doing my planning. But I hope that this video has been helpful for you. If you like this video, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe to my channel, so that you can learn more about hybrid homeschooling and the different tips and tricks that I use in my homeschool for helping homeschool my kiddo with learning differences. Until then, try not to stress. That is one thing that I have learned, and been by far my greatest lesson that I continue to learn, because education is a journey, not a destination. Relax. It's only homeschooling. Bye for now.